Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for another video where I will show you a one-liner and I will explain how it works. So here, this command will display the most used command from your shell history. So if I run it, you can see that according to my history, I use 1337 times CD, 808 MV, and so on and so forth. It just shows you the habits you have and the commands you use the most often in your shell. And it's quite interesting to know, to see if you could improve your workflow, see what you've used lately, stuff like that. Why not? The command itself is interesting as well because it's quite simple and it shows very well some stuff you can do with some CLI. So let's begin. The first part before the first pipe is history 0. Now history will behave differently if you use ZSH or bash. So if I do history in ZSH, it will only display the last 16 history entry I have. And yeah, 16 last entries. And if I want to display everything, I can say I want the history from the first entry. And I do history 1. If I want the last 10 entries, so the last 10 commands I've typed in my shell, I can do -10 and then I will have the last 10 commands, like that. So history 0 is basically I want to go from the top of my history, which can contain 10,000 entries maximum, and I want to go through all the history till the end, which allow me to manipulate my whole history of my shell. Then, when you look at the history itself, you see there is an ID or a number at the beginning, and then there is some white spaces, and there is the name of the command itself. And it's what is interesting for us, is this command, and then we need to count it somehow, how many times there is this command in our history. So to isolate the command, we could use awk, because awk by default separates fields separated with white spaces, which means that for awk, this line is 2 fields. The first field is 9,499 and the second field is history. We could do that, but if you look at the command, there is a first security, because often in your shell, when you want to run something as root, you use sudo. And we don't want sudo because if you look here, for example, here I've run tmux, but I could have run, for example, even if it's a bit silly, sudo tmux. And in that case, it would be the number, a space, sudo, a space, and tmux. It means that for awk, the second field would be sudo in that case, and it's not what we want. We really want the command. So the first awk with the conditional in the action, and if you want to know more about awk, you can watch my video where I cover the basics. I don't cover the conditional, but it's really simple to use. So in the conditional, I have if the second field, again, fields being separated by white spaces by default, if the second field is sudo, in that case, I get the third field, which is the command afterwards. Otherwise, I get the second field. So it's really a security to not get sudo command because nobody cares about them. What we really care about is the command we want to run. Then there is a second awk. This one is interesting because it's again another security to not have weird command. What I mean by that is if you do ls pipe wc, for example, ls this part, this part is not really a command, right? This one. It's not really a command, it's just a command piped. But since it's not again separated with white spaces, and if we use awk directly on that, for awk, if I do that, if I want to print the first field, of course, we need to treat that as a string because in our command to display everything we want, the input is a string. So if we do that, for awk the command is ls pipe wc. We don't want that. So we need to separate the command ls, what we want, with the pipe and the rest of the line. So for that, we can change the field separator, which is by default spaces, as I said 1,000,000 times. And we need to replace it with a pipe. And this time, if we separate the line by pipes instead of white spaces, the first field of the line will be ls instead of ls pipe wc. So it's really that. The first awk is an insurance that we don't have sudo in our result, and the second awk makes sure that we just get rid of the pipes as well and everything piped into. So afterwards, we have sort, because we need to sort our commands. Why? Because let's say that, for example, let's say you have an history like that, and then you have ls, and then you have wc, and then you have ls again. We want to count how many ls there are in there. So the easiest way to do that is just to sort everything. So ls will be one after the other, because since it's sorted alphabetically, everything which are the same are adjacent to each other or follow each other. And when things follow each other, then you can do what we do on our command afterwards, which is sort and then unique C. And unique C will just count how many adjacent commands there are. So if you have two ls like we did just before, count minus C will output two ls and then one wc. And it's exactly what we want. Like that, we count how many ls, wc, and exact commands there are in our output. If ls weren't one after the other, it wouldn't work. There would be one ls, one vc, and then one ls again, which is not what we want. So sort and unique, in that case, work together, and then we pipe it to sort minus rn afterwards, because sort minus n will sort everything by numerically. So if you have 3 ls, 1 wc, well, we can try that. And then you do sort minus n. Oh, and we need line break between. So it will sort it, but ascending, which means that the lowest number will be at the beginning and the last numbers and the biggest numbers will be at the bottom. What we want is the contrary. We want the highest number at the top and the lowest number at the bottom. So we can reverse to have a descending sort. And if we do that, indeed, we have 3 ls and 1 wc. So if we look at our final command, we sort everything by the number of uses in our history. And then we pipe all of that to head minus 15 to just have the first 15th line, which gives us that. If you want the first 100 line, I mean, let's say the first 2 lines, you can do head minus 2 and you will have that. Just to show you, if we do sort minus n without reversing, which means that we have a sort ascending, in that case, we have the command we used only one time, which is not really useful. What we want is the commands we use the most often. So that's it. I hope it was useful. It was just going through quickly multiple CLIs working together and see how we can apply clever tricks to just display whatever you want at the end, because awk and sort and unique combined together can do a lot of stuff. Thanks a lot for watching. As always, if you want to please the mighty and godly YouTube algorithm, you can send the videos to your friends, like, subscribe to my channel, send me email, pray for me if you want. And thanks a lot for watching. Please, if you have any feedback, the comment section is open for everybody. And see you next time in another video.